I'm Sofia Sprechmann Sineiro. I'm Secretary General of CARE International. I have been in this role for 4 years, but I have been with CARE for 30 years. Since '94, I'm from Uruguay, South America, and my passion is to support locally led humanitarian response and development with a strong focus on gender and on women and girls. I'm learning a lot about the importance of decolonizing aid. It has always been my passion because I have always believed in the feminist principle of nothing about us without us. Nothing about us without us. Everything should be shaped by the people who are in the center of any problem that requires a solution. That should be universal, but unfortunately, the aid system was built at a time in which most of Africa was still colonial, and it still has the colonial flavor of people coming from outside with resources and ideas to bring them somewhere else. And because we all grew up in a system that had such deep colonial roots, we need to shake it up. We need to really transform it. I think what I have learned is more and more where it still persists. You think it's overcome, and it's still there. In many of the words we use, the field, going to a field, or work on the ground, as if anywhere else people were floating. No, we are all on the ground. I have learned so much about the vocabulary that still gives us a mental image of people that is just not the truth of who we are. So what I'm learning through the pledge is really to much more deeply reflect about it, but also to commit to transform it in simple ways sometimes, and in more difficult ways as well. There would be a whole range of things that I could mention. But for example, just to name one example, in CARE we did an audit of our images library, the photographs that we've taken over decades of work, and we noticed that 70% of the photos were taken by white men. And of course, whoever portrays the work and clicks the trigger of the camera has a lot of power about what is shown about a reality and a context. And that's something you can change overnight, from one day to the next. You can change that. And it's now very powerful because our photos are now taken by women from the global south. It's a completely different reality that you see. It's a completely different reality. So that is powerful in itself. That's relatively superficial, but meaningful. And there's much more deeper work we need to do to change the entire aid infrastructure. I'm not a fan of the word localization because it suggests that something that international NGOs were doing now needs to be localized as if it was the same. Just different people doing the same job. Maybe the entire job needs to change. It's a different solution to the problem. Look at how the world is going. Obviously, what INGOs were doing did not do the trick because there's inequality and poverty and crisis and wars like we haven't seen in a long time, which means localizing aid suggests that there was a good solution and now we just change the implementer. I think the solution needs to change. The solution needs to change, and the ideas must come from the women that lead their communities themselves. And we just back them. We support them with resourcing, but the idea shouldn't be ours. There is all of it. That's where it needs to. But first, I think the aid sector has done a lot actually to oppress those voices, because it came with packaged ideas that the aid sector thought they will work everywhere. The same we do in Afghanistan, we can do in Uganda, we can do in Nicaragua, and we can do, no. Every context has its knowledge, its experience, and its solutions. So the big problem has been that a lot of the idea of self-determination of the people themselves to be in the driving seat of their development many people in development projects have lost their confidence in their ideas because they had to adopt the ideas that came from somewhere else in the world, from the global north mainly. So the whole idea is that that is radically changed and that the ideas are nourished and cultivated in the communities, and we are just there to support with creating an environment that allows those ideas to come up and resourcing them sometimes when we are able to bring resources from the global north to the global south. I've always believed in that. I'm from the global south, but when I joined the NGO sector, I couldn't believe what I was seeing 30 years ago. It has changed for the better. It is improving, but there's still a long way to go. The spaces, we don't only create them, they must be taken by the people. And for that, we often have to just step aside and step out. We cannot always be there. We need to step out in order to allow that experience to emerge. So I'm not sure whether we can always create it. I think we need to often be more silent, listen more, speak less, and maybe that's all we need to do in order to be and really drive global solidarity. There's good things that may come from the north, and there's very bad things that come from the south, and the same from the south. So the whole thing is about much more equalizing, much more mutuality, reciprocity are the key words, that we talk and listen, and that's what the aid system has not done very well. And so the reciprocity, that finding the idea from anywhere where it may come, is what we need to focus on.